Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series. It's PlayStation, but it's not, where I take a look at some of my favorite PlayStation 1 games that ran on arcade boards, and today we're taking a look at Point Blank 2. Now I will say right off the top, I'm just playing the PlayStation 1 version because that is the better version compared to the arcade board, but Point Blank got its start in the arcade from Namco on the Namco System series of hardware. But when I say Point Blank is one of the best light gun series of all time, I mean it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like, subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But Point Blank 2 is just spectacular. I had to debate what Point Blank to talk about on this series, 1, 2, or 3. I love them all, and all I did was put 3 numbers into a random number generator, and the result said 2, so that's the one we're playing. But that's how good all 3 of these games are. I could have picked any of them and had an absolute blast. And if for some strange reason you've never played Point Blank before, then I have a homework assignment for you. You 100% have to play it at some point in time after watching this video, because it's basically just a shooting gallery. It's different challenges with a light gun, but this game has so much personality. It's oozing out of all its orify, even if that's a horrifying mental image. Dr. Dan, Dr. Don, and all of the other characters and artwork that the designers at Namco made for this series are just so absolutely iconic. This is a great party game. It's a great game to play with friends. It's a great game to play alone and try to beat your high score and to be able to beat all the different challenges this game presents to you, because every stage does something slightly different. Shearing the sheep here, you need to be both accurate and fast. It takes about 7 to 8 hits to get their wool off, and if you miss even one spot, it's not going to count it before the timer runs down. The longest stage in Point Blank I think maybe runs for like 30 seconds, and after you do rapid fire sheep shearing, you're going to have to do basic math. Every single challenge falls into a certain category, and every single challenge is going to be just different enough so that it feels fresh and new, and the game mixes them up. On this one here, you just gotta shoot that tank 60 times before the timer runs out, but that means you need to be rapidly firing on the trigger or else you're not going to be able to do it. Other challenges change things up completely. As opposed to having an unlimited amount of bullets and trying to shoot something 60 times, we now have 1 bullet and we need to wait for the stopwatch to get underneath a certain time. We got half a second here to shoot it. It's not that hard, it's relatively easy to do, but this game is going to have bigger versions of the same challenge, more extreme ones. We have 1/10 of 1 second to hit that watch, and I did it at 2/10 of a second, and I failed the challenge. So pretty much every game you see in Point Blank is going to have an insane variant, and you're going to have to try to beat it. And let me tell you, when I say some of them are difficult, I mean some of them might take 20 to 30 tries to be able to clear it once. All you need to do here is shoot 8 gangsters while avoiding the different, citizens in front of you. Actually doing it though requires basically perfection, and I got frustrated and decided to shoot everything. And you'll lose a life every time you do it, but at this point in time it doesn't really matter. But some of the insane challenges are exactly that. They are brutally hard. They are going to test your absolute limit. But if you fail one, just continue on. You're going to see something completely different. One of my favorite things about Point Blank is not just the challenge and the varied nature of the gameplay though. I just love the overall vibe of this game. Dr. Dan, Dr. Don, these piranhas, the different birds you shoot. Point Blank is an entire universe with art created specifically for it, and it just has a look and a feel that I think is spectacular. Namco 100% nailed it here, and they also have another game that runs on PlayStation 1 based hardware for the arcade, and that is Golgo 13. I've talked about it before, so I'm not putting it on this series, but if you've never played it, you owe it to yourself to do so. Namco knew what it took to make an awesome light gun game, and the sound designers and musicians at Namco knew what it took to make an absolutely perfect soundtrack for Point Blank, so go ahead and listen. I will be right back. Maybe it's just me and maybe I played so much Point Blank in my life, but that little result screen jingle is seared into my brain. I could hum it to myself anytime I wanted, and that is how you know a piece of soundtrack is quite good. But you'll see with this challenge here, you just have one bullet, you gotta shoot the cork off a champagne bottle. It's as simple as that. Now I am playing this on DuckStation and I am using a virtual light gun device, but I'm not using the original arcade board, and that is because again, it just seems to like to desync on my setup. Light gun games sync with original boards can be quite difficult. I've got some original captures on some boards, other boards I've yet to be able to capture, so I'm going with DuckStation here. I'm also doing it so I can show you that anyone can play this game, and if you've never played Point Blank before, trust me, you absolutely have to do it. Every once in a while, I will say though, if there's one issue I have with Point Blank, is that sometimes it doesn't tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. It says to shoot the plane 60 times, but only after repeated gameplay will you realize that you can't just shoot the center of the plane 60 times. Once a piece breaks off, you have to shoot a different area of the plane. So if you fail on this one the first time, it's kind of because the game didn't explain things properly to you. On other challenges like shoot the glasses from the top down, you knew exactly what you need to do. Keep shooting those champagne flutes until you hit every single one of them from top to bottom. It's only a few challenges in the game that seem to have that issue where maybe it's a mistranslation from Japanese or maybe it's just not thought about that well, but you can get slightly confused as to what you're supposed to do. But once you fail once and understand it, you'll never do it again. But when I say this game has diversity, I mean it. There are so many different types of shooting challenges. Like right here, you have to both identify what it is you need to shoot, and you need to shoot it all within like under half a second. This game requires fast reflexes, and trust me, this is the type of game you're going to get a lot better at the more you play it. And if you get into Point Blank and you start to enjoy it, and you got a CRT TV at your house like I do right next to me as I'm doing this voiceover, you can play it for hours on end and have an absolute blast. And it is, again, the type of game that 100% opens up when you have friends playing. This stage here, one bullet, one shot, I missed it, that'll happen, but it makes you want to go back and do it again. But I'm going to give you a listen to one more piece of music because I say this is the best Namco soundtrack ever, so enjoy it and I'll be back in like 35 seconds, but it's good. It's just absolutely incredible music. It's some of my favorite of all time from Namco. If you haven't noticed yet, you might see that some of the text is cut off on the bottom of the screen. That is not a bad capture and it's not a bad scale. On original PlayStation 1 hardware, on a CRT TV, it likes to cut things off at the bottom, and that's because the arcade hardware operated on a slightly different frequency than original PlayStation 1 hardware does. It actually puts the image slightly off screen. It doesn't matter whatsoever, you're not missing any of the gameplay, but it is a weird thing that Point Blank does, and I think it's just based on that Namco System hardware that this game is running on. But if you did notice it, that is why. But again, just shooting these cardboard cutouts of the gangsters, it's a ton of fun. This is a very gangster themed game. Some of the other Point Blank games are much more ninja themed. Each game has its own sort of vibe going on, but what they all have in common, all three of the games, is that they're just pure fun to play. It is excellent shooting mechanics. If you have this on a PlayStation 1 console, which I do, with a GunCon, it is the most accurate light gun you're going to find, including exceeding some of the accuracy of my Konami arcade light guns. If you miss a shot, it's because it's on you, so long as your gun's properly calibrated. But some of the challenges are so simple. Shoot the stars in the order that they line up, but it moves so fast that suddenly something that was very easy at the start becomes incredibly difficult towards the end. And if you get an insane version of this, you basically have to get all three shots out in like half a second, or else that board's going to turn back around. And then at the end, you get a challenge that I've never once successfully completed. You have different targets to shoot on the castle, so fireworks light off. I've gotten up to the point where there was one left, but I've never in my life been successful at it. But that doesn't mean I won't come back and keep trying, because when I say the entire Point Blank series is arcade gaming gold, I mean it. This is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I own all 3 big boxes with the games and the GunCons that came with them, and I would never part with them from my collection. But if you've never played Point Blank, please, in this entire PlayStation series, if there's one game you go out and try after this video is over, make sure it's Point Blank, and if you have some friends, make sure they're there with you. Short of that, this game is a 10 out of 10. It is perfect. See you next time. Bye-bye.